Welcome to Greenable Woodbridge. I am your host, Carolyn Ehrlich. Today we are at the Greenable Museum of the Future in Woodbridge Mall. The last time we were here, we did a virtual walk around because we had a big empty space and nothing in it. And we felt, well, you know, now it's a pretty exciting space. Let's come back and see what's happening. And one of the main things that is happening at the museum right now is we have a phenomenal art show going on. And the artist, who's a very famous artist from New York City, is here with us today to talk about his work and the unique way that he creates art. And it's all about the earth and the environment, and it's very unique and very, very different. So let me introduce to you Ken Cro-Ken and one of his creations, Fred. Can you tell us a little bit about what you do and how we came about to have Fred here?
All right. I guess I'll start by saying what his name means. His name is Freely Reactive Environmental Design, Fred.
Wow.
And this work was made over time on my roof garden in Manhattan about 4 or 5 years before I brought it in. And that's what I do with my work, is make it out in nature. So a hot day, cold day, wet day, dry day will affect the paint experiment. The most fun is making them in below freezing, because that's where time suspends itself.
Whoa. So you put paint and all kinds of materials outside on your roof, and you add to it, but at the same time, the weather makes the art happen.
Right.
So this is really, it's the environment that creates the art.
Right, and it lives in real time. So if you are at a sculpture park and you see one outdoors, you want to come back after it rains or snows or even during to see how it looks and what changes occur.
That's very, very interesting. So, as a matter of fact, we first started talking because we were talking about doing outdoor murals. And the beauty of your murals is that they just get better over time instead of wearing away.
Right. Well, that's because I want to accept what is, and we don't go blind and say nature's not going to interfere, because it will.
Right.
So since it's a partner, might as well make it a welcome one, and a partnership that's truly working together. So if a painting is made on the wall, it's layers and layers and layers, and then after time passes, it continues to fall off and other colors come on, and so it lives with life.
That is great. So let us move on to your next piece of art. All right, now, even though it's spring and the last thing that we want to be talking about is the cold, here we are at the cold segment. And up on top is a piece of art that spells out cold, and it's actually made by some of our students in school. At the same time that we have Ken Cro-Ken's display here, we also are having a contest for our students in the schools to make recycled art, and we will be talking about all of that later. But that worked out perfectly with your masterpiece over here. So what is this?
Thanks. I call it 6 foot square snow painting, January to April 2010. I like using the actual dates to let you know when a piece was made. So in fact, when you look at this painting, either in video or over time, you'll see the date. Now, this painting was made on the roof garden again, and it was a lot of snow coming down. At a certain point, I have to give way and say, okay, now that nature's basically covered it over in snow and blanketed it, I'm going to wait until it decides to reveal itself and have its own exhibition for me, and then capture it on video.
Wow. So you do a painting, you put it on your roof,
I make it on the roof there.
You make it on the roof.
Sometimes when it's snowing. Sometimes there's some painting below it. And if the snow has landed on it and covered it, I have to paint from memory and still continue to paint. It's all an option.
Oh, wow. And so it just changes and happens and goes on as time goes on. And so the different textures and everything here, and even some of the color, I imagine, is determined by how much it snows and the weather conditions.
Right. You have to start to wonder, what does nature influence? And it becomes very obvious with the speed elements, the paint I use. The paint is mixed with catalysts so that I can set it in motion and recreate the push-pull forces that shape and mold everything here on this planet and throughout the universe. So I get to see what it's doing and, in a sense, just learn as everyone else is learning. And I still look at work and see things that, like the effects going on in the bottom, the rippling, like it does in sand in the ocean. And nature will just show itself. It just tells it all.
Wow, and I imagine the wind has to have an impact on this too. That's what that is.
That's what you have to wonder. Was it the wind? Was it the sun? Was it the placement of other objects on the roof garden that, because the wind will blow through and actually cause a drift here, and so the placement of objects, almost like a chess game, is going on, and you have to figure out what are all the influences.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Very fascinating. Okay, let's move on to our next piece. And here we are at another fascinating piece of art. Can you tell us about how this one was created?
Well, this one's called Long Island in Connecticut, and what I do with all of my paintings, like I mentioned, is speed elements is what I call the paint, and I set it in motion to create reactive improvisations, and I have to create a balance between what's going on in my mind and what's going on outside of myself. And if I lose that balance, I can actually become an intruder to my own painting and scar the experiment like we do the world. You've got to remain sensitive to things outside yourself.
Very interesting.
So this one here, like all the other paintings, come to rest after it's been set in motion and launched. So what happens is the painting comes to rest, and what you see is a visual record of past events, like a planet's surface. So the video captures the images that eluded capture by the canvas.
So it is an ongoing story from when you started to when you get this, and that ongoing changing painting is captured on video.
Right, because what I'm doing is I'm manipulating space, time, and matter using paint. So I can let this painting, for example, be outdoors, and then it'll continue to go at a much faster rate than conventional art does. But when I bring it in, it's going at the time rate that the rest of conventional art is doing. So speed is determined by the owner. They'll say, let's put it out there and let's leave it out in the snow and everything, or not.
Very interesting. So how did this past winter affect your work? It didn't get very cold, and there wasn't a lot of precipitation.
Well, yeah, you know, last winter was terrific. I mean, personally, I love summer, but professionally, I love winter. If it snows and I'm in town, I am up on the roof painting.
Like me, where I'm hiding inside under a blanket.
Well, I'm under layers and layers and layers of clothes, so yeah, I enjoyed the winter best in that case. But I had to do some shows in Florida at Longboat Center for the Arts. I did a performance live because I realized I needed to narrow that gap and let you see what's going on live. So I set the paint in motion, and Matt Sullivan plays oboe and digital effects, the electronics, and he set it in motion.
Matt is one of our local artists, so I just had to give a plug there.
Yeah. So he and I did the performance, their time release performances. So I set the painting in motion and show you it live, while pre-recording shows you the red oval of Jupiter and all the things that show us how space moves.
Very interesting. Okay, we want one of those in Woodbridge one day. Okay, let's move on to the next.
Well, you've got them now.
Right. Okay, now, Ken, this painting is really different because it has what I called bubbles, but I heard you call them domes. How did they get there? What is that all about?
Well, remember I mentioned manipulating space, time, and matter using paint? When I put a dome into the paint experiment, it arrests the development, and it will stop right there, and the rest of the painting continues on. So this is manipulating, these all are manipulating time.
Oh, very interesting.
But in this case, you'll see that this one here has slid from here to there. which in science is called gravitational lensing. And so when we look at the moon, let's say the moon is right here and there's a star behind it, and you think you can't see it, what happens with gravitational lensing is you can see something that's here, but it looks like it's over here. So this place was over there. So in this case, I'm manipulating space.
Amazing, totally amazing. Did you put each of these up at a different time, each of the domes?
Oh, of course. Yes. Unless I saw something really great happening and I'm saying stop. So, and these mini paintings are refer back to the shows I did in New Zealand, Macro, Micro. And they were the first part of my work that led me to understand distance in space. You know, the cubists dealt with dissecting space, but they didn't know anything about light years.
Right.
So in the case of this work, this mini painting is either a microscopic close-up of that spot, so this is a close-up of here, or this is a detail of this, which may be 7 billion light years away. So we're splitting space now on a grand scale, and it's the 21st century.
Whoa,
So
you're making me feel like I'm on a rocket ship here.
good.
Terrific. Okay, let's move on. I guess one of the amazing things about Ken's artwork is there's a story behind every painting. It's just not, okay, so here we have this because we have this and we have a story to go with it. What's the story behind this painting?
Well, there are two different stories in a way. One is the one we see, and one is the story of the making of, which is why the videos are good, because it ends up letting you see just what happens. You know, when, for example, there's a breach in an experiment and it starts moving this way, and I have to learn to free myself. If I free the paint, I can free myself further, which is what the abstract expressionists partially wanted to do, was to free themselves. Well, by letting nature be a part of it and actually letting nature lead. As Emerson says, a wise man follows nature's lead. And so I just tag along, and I'm the one getting the story from nature. It's telling me as well, just as it is you.
That is a great quote. That could be the theme behind Greenable Woodbridge.
Yeah.
Follow nature.
Let nature lead.
Yes,
a wise person follows, not leads nature.
Terrific, thank you.
So in this case, right now I've been using this as a symbol to my work, which is on my cards. And the fun thing about these cards is this side is not exposed to the elements. What's glued to it is this side, which is...
And I have one of your cards. I love it.
So, well, this way everyone can get an original, like a snowflake. No two can be alike. And so it allows people to see several different experiments, just like you know that these might be part of the same experiment, and the others as well. So the thing about it is I'm using a lot of Emerson quotes in my work. I'm finishing a catalog now called The Conduct of Paint. It celebrates the 150th anniversary of Ralph Waldo Emerson's The Conduct of Life. And he says, for example, it's just so many great things he says. He said, nature has her own best way of doing each thing and has told us plainly along the way. And if we decide to choose our own ways as opposed to nature's, nature will not be slow in undeceiving us. I love that, undeceiving us.
Very nice.
So you'll see even in the photograph there, another Emerson quote, that there's nothing in the universe which is not contained within the human body. The human body being a summary of the universe. That's once again why we called the show at the Greenable Museum Macro Micro, because you'll find all these things in great scale, and it's all self-similarity. So the mud bank that shows some dendrites or branches of erosion.
Right.
Those things are just examples of what happens to nature, and it happens the same with the Grand Canyon.
Right.
So
on the small scale and the large scale.
Exactly.
Right. Terrific. And the concept that our bodies are just an embodiment of the universe is totally fascinating. You know, when you think about it, I mean, we're mostly water, and it's just, that's a great concept.
Well, Emerson, it was 150 years ago, he did The Conduct of Life, and there's so many things that need to come into the 21st century. We'll take new ideas, but we should carry along a lot of the old ones. So to celebrate that 150th anniversary, I'm doing The Conduct of Paint.
That is great. And I just have to laugh because as I am getting older, I can find comfort in the fact that I am eroding just as the Grand Canyon is.
I'm glad you said that because you're not eroding. First off, you're not. But you see, when we use words like erosion and entropy, the definition says degradation. It's all these negative terms. If we took the value judgment off it and just merely called it transformation.
With nature.
Yes, you're transforming beautifully.
With nature. Thank you. Okay, let's move on. Not supposed to be talking about me. And here we are at another painting. And as we've been walking around, I've been wondering, how did art and nature originally come to you? How did you get this great idea?
How did it come to me? Actually, it did. It came to me. I didn't go to it at first because in Santa Barbara, I did my undergraduate school in California, and I had never wanted to actually, for example, do winter again, but New York and this whole area with Woodbridge, it's got all the parks that you're reclaiming and everything. All these things that are going on, I did want to come here, but in Santa Barbara, I was lucky while going to school to live on the edge of a creek. And nature, with even fungus and other things, would start entering the work. And instead of fearing it, I embraced it, just like I embraced change and so on. So nature joined me before I decided to say, hello, nature, I don't live in a vacuum.
Right.
So nature came to me and I said, come on in. But it's really the other way around. Nature is allowing us to join it if we play well with it.
Very interesting. So this goes back to your college days.
The first speed element painting I made was back in 1980, I believe. So the thing was, I was looking for something that was different than just making paintings, because this was the beginning of postmodernism.
Right.
And at San Diego State, when I went to school there, I came back to Santa Barbara to live, because that's where I really wanted to make the work. I was lucky enough, and so on. But Robert Morris is an incredible conceptual artist. He, at the time I was there in 79, 80 at school, and postmodernism was just happening and extending beyond just art itself. He had a project for art in public places for Atlanta. And what he did was he took several sticks of dynamite, stuck them in a hole, blew up a hole, and then put a sign saying, this is 1/1,000,000th of a megaton blast.
Whoa.
And I thought, wow, that is art by the concept. And I thought, how can I make art more of a concept? And that's when I said, well, nature's already knocking on the door saying, let me in. And I realized that what I'm doing is I'm learning about paint and nature simultaneously.
So it's actually, though, for you, it became more than a concept, and it became living art.
A reality, because what I'm dealing with is not realism or abstraction, but the actual. And then I decide, do I want it in actual time by bringing it in? Like cooking, you decide when to take it out of the oven. When is it ready? So it really is a terrific marriage, and nature actually just tells everything. It really does reveal everything about itself. As Emerson said, how something appears depends on how long one takes to observe.
Unbelievable. So, you know, I'm listening to you talk, and I'm always thinking of the young people. You have to be a real inspiration to all of our young, budding artists that we have in Woodbridge. It's like kind of thinking out of the box.
I hope Emerson's saying that about me, that I'm young. No, in this case, there are several experiments going on in the work, and you start to see how I fuse those experiments. In this piece right here, this has about 30 different experiments fused together. If you look at it, every inch is another experiment. And it doesn't look like a hodgepodge.
Right.
Because I'm fusing it together.
Yes.
And so this one is Bash Fish Falls. And I really have to do some Woodbridge paintings on location, find the right location.
We're going to get you there, right.
Yeah. And this one is Deep Blue St. Pete. And in that one, you'll see there is that mini painting again, macro, micro. There's a blue hazy area. This painting is a close-up of that blue hazy area, which may be 8,000 million gazillion light years away.
This one makes me think of Picasso.
Picasso is blue period.
Yes. Terrific. And I think we have another one to look at.
Yeah, we do.
Okay. Now, this piece is different from the others because it really is three-dimensional. How did that happen?
Well, it's like Fred.
It's like Fred, yes.
Like Fred using spray foam. Oh, I'll say with Fred, I had filled it with plastic jugs and other things so that I didn't use as much spray foam, and it was then that much lighter. So this is spray foam, and what I did was, like often for the performances, the spray foam will be a tank that holds the painting experiment in there. So it doesn't go all over the stage and so on, right? Studio, I don't mind. Except I probably want to have a canvas underneath to start the next painting because I like reacting off of things, besides reacting to the active paint. So this one here was actually an Earth Day performance. And one thing I'd like Danny to mention, the curator, is that I want the kids to find it, where is Earth in all of this, because it's called A Place Containing Earth. And Earth is in there somewhere, like find Waldo. You know?
Can I say if I see it?
Yeah.
Is it up there in that, is that it over in that corner
Nope.
there? No.
It's not an image, it is an actual globe.
That's what I said, that globe is in it?
Nope.
Oh, and that globe?
It is the blue one right there.
Oh,
and then
okay.
you see from from one of the time release performances, I ended the video by dropping the Earth into the paint, which I actually did that also in the Longbow Key Center for the Arts show. I dropped the Earth. But there's also another larger Earth over here, which is like a parallel world to Earth.
This is so now, let me ask you a question. If I wanted to do this at home with my granddaughter, all I would need to do is go outside with a canvas and some paint and maybe some globes and have her paint something and leave it outside, and every week when she comes to visit, we could just check it out and see what's happening to it.
You have to decide what materials you want to use, and paint itself is a material. The thing that set me apart from others originally as painters is I didn't see paint for its color quality. Paint is an object. And so I'm manipulating that object around the canvas and so on. So I definitely see paint as an object, and the thicker you put on the layers of paint, the more protection there might be and so on. But that's what any artist wants to hear, is that someone wants to go and get canvases
and do it.
And a lot of the work like this one is on wood rather than a canvas. And in fact, this is part of a 3-part series. It was one 4 by 8 foot piece of plywood, thick plywood. And I put the spray foam on to shape it, and then I turned it over and cut 3 pieces so that each one was going to be its own thing. And this one went out to the performance. The other 2 went out onto the roof, one for 4 years, one for 6 years. For years. Yeah, you do know, everyone has a feeling of when they're sure to bring it in. But you know, again, we can't live in fear. I did want to start this conduct of paint saying, if it is love which has moved art forward, it's fear which has set it back. So you have to do this with your granddaughter just freely and be able to just go for it and enjoy it. And
every parent and every grandparent can be going out in their backyards and doing this with their kids.
Yeah, give them lots of good painting clothes. They're too big for mine, but everything I have turns into painting clothes. I end up thinking I'm done for the day, and it turns out that I got paint on and I have to use it. But anyway, here, each one of these had a different experience. They were all cut from the same cloth, as you would say. And so, again, this one went out for a performance. The other two went out on the roof for 4 and 6 years. It's called Separated at Birth.
Oh, amazing.
And this
That's
one, again, is called A Place Containing Earth because of the earths within it. And it was an Earth Day performance.
And we're about to celebrate Earth Day, so this is perfect. And you have talked about the videos and capturing the process. And here you have a video that goes along with this?
Yeah, I have a few videos here for this show so that people can see all those things that they missed. You know, years ago, I was actually trying to hide how I did it. Because one thing an artist really wants is to be able to, in a sense, do a magic trick so that someone will say, how did he do that? But a good musician doesn't tell their tricks. Secrets. But I realized I had to show people. The videos were something in themselves to see, but to see it live. And I realized that I had to narrow the gap even further. But when I'm not there performing, what you've got is the videos to show for it. So actually the funny thing is that when a painting comes to rest, it would be more accurate to call it a painted. And the video, the painting.
I love that. That is a great way to end this show. Thank you for being with us, Ken.
Thanks.
This was fascinating. And thank you, everybody, for watching Greenable Woodbridge and being part of the excitement and part of the change.